In this demo, we'll explore the Invoice Document Splitter Skills extraction rule activity. Let's take a closer look at how it extracts critical information from invoices. To help understand the functionality of the splitter skill, let's first examine the settings of the following groups of elements: invoice number labeled, invoice number field, and GR page numeration. When this skill was created, the fact that a very large variety of invoice document formats exists was taken into consideration. An invoice number search method depends on how your document looks, which fields they contain, and where these fields are located in relation to each other. For example, you can use a located invoice date to find an invoice number, or alternatively, use neural networks, or you can use labels. All these methods are applied in this skill, and we're going to focus on the most commonly used method, finding a field's value by its label. As you can see, we created a group of elements for an accurate search of the invoice number label. I'll open each of these elements to see their properties. Label search area is a region element that helps to define the area where the label is most likely located. As you can see from the element properties, we expect the invoice number label to be located in the upper part of an image and in a certain area relative to the location of the invoice date. Label sure and label unsure. Each of these group elements contain both a static text element called label and a character string element called label sentence check. Using this approach helps with prioritization of the different values found on the page, when more than one of them could hypothetically be the desired value. Here's an example. Imagine that some of your documents have the invoice number labeled as just number, while other documents in your set have a full label, invoice number. In that case, you can prioritize the text invoice number over the text number by adding invoice number as text to search for in the label sure element and number for the label unsure element. If the system finds both, it will select invoice number as the correct search result. If you click on the label static text element under the label sure group, you will see that we added two label options into the text defined field. If you click on the label static text element under the label unsure group, you will see that we also added a number of possible but less likely to find label options. Some of these labels might be found several times in various locations on one invoice document. The label sentence check element, both under label sure and label unsure, ensures that we haven't extracted a value which is in fact a part of a longer sentence and thus not a label at all. The label final element compares the values found under label sure and label unsure, then selects the label sure as a desired field value in case both were found. The field on right group element incorporates a set of elements that help us find the invoice number field value to the right of the invoice number label. As you can see in the properties of the group for search area element, the value must be found in an area extending up to 1,300 dots to the right of the label and 35 dots below or above the label. All elements in this group were added to this production-ready skill to improve quality of extraction for the widest variety of invoices, including documents in different languages. For example, the number prefix element helps detect number prefixes. For example, pound 12345 or NO 12345 that may be found on some invoices. There are so many ways to extract fields using extraction rules. But we're not going to digress and show you the full capacity of extraction rules activities by describing all the elements and their possible configurations in detail. Our focus is on the splitter skill. The most important elements in this invoice number label group are field on right narrow tab and field on right wide tab. Field on right narrow tab looks for a value that is 1 to 25 characters long. The maximum space between words in the string is limited to up to 70 dots or a dynamically calculated value, 3/4 of the label string height, which accommodates images scanned at different resolutions. If this element finds a string of 5 characters or more, the system will be satisfied and extract it as a field value. In this case, the field on right wide tab search will not be executed. Note that this functionality was set up via the element code, not the standard element properties. If the field on right narrow tab value is not found, or the found value is less than 5 characters, the system will also search for the field on right wide tab, which has the same properties except it allows the gap between words to be 2 times bigger, that is, 3/2 of the label string height. So if there are more characters to the right within this distance, they will also be grabbed as a part of the invoice number. The field on right main element then selects one of the 2 values. If both are found, the field on right wide tab will be selected. The field below group element incorporates a set of elements that helps us find the invoice number field value below the invoice number label. The logic is pretty much the same. There's a set of elements that maximizes the quality of extraction given a huge variety of documents. Then the field below character string element extracts the field value nearest to the label, 1 to 25 characters long, with a maximum space length of 70 dots. With the field below sentence check element, we ensure that the extracted value is not embedded within a sentence. Also of interest is the extra line and extra line negation elements. If the invoice number label has been located with low certainty, the system will try to find an extra line between the label and the value. If there are no extra lines, the number found below the label will be extracted. If an extra line is found, and the distance between the extra line and the label is bigger than the distance between the same extra line and the value, then this extra line is negated, and the number found below is still extracted normally. But if the extra line is found, and the first distance is smaller than the second, then the extra line negation is not found, and the search results of the whole group will be canceled. In other words, the number found below the label and extra line will not be considered the invoice number. The field final element then selects one of the 2 found values, field on right or field below. If both are found, the field on right will be selected. Now let's take a look at the next important group of search elements, invoice number field. As we previously stated, this skill utilizes several methods to find the invoice number field. It searches by neural networks, by invoice date, and by label. So this group of elements was made to analyze and compare the results of all methods and pick the most certain value. The invoice number field group also cleans up the results and checks one more time that unwanted prefixes, restricted keywords, and dates weren't extracted with the invoice number. Finally, the invoice number final element determines the final value of the invoice number field. Another important value for our splitter skill is the first page marker. I'll open the GR page numeration group to see which elements were used to find the first page marker. Separate groups were created for values that are more likely and less likely to be found, label sure and label unsure, just as we did with the invoice number label. The label text string elements contain many of the most common variations of a first page marker. Some of them are pictured here. The label sentence check elements are there to ensure that extracted values are not a part of some sentence. Now you know how splitter skill elements are used to analyze pages and why including all these varying approaches, in the end, increases reliability and extracted data quality.